First things first, thanks for coming, and I apologize for the late start, but the truth is that we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to hear this, participate in it. It doesn't do any good to tell folks that you're going to have a news conference and then start before they can get there. Not a good thing, and so we want to do that. I do have some prepared comments. Some of them are formal, some of them are informal, and let's see where we go. All right? On Monday, January the 14th, two of our deputies were involved in an event that resulted in the death of a dog. Since then, as you guys know, there has just been a firestorm of controversy. The investigation began immediately. Part of the reason for the controversy is because there has been too much misinformation. There have been too many people speculating, and frankly, there have been people who are angry, and we understand the reason for that anger, but the truth is that we have to look for the information, look for the facts, and make sure that we deliver that in an appropriate way. So the purpose of this news conference is to tell you about the progress of our investigation, to provide you with candid, accurate information, to set the record straight when it comes to the misinformation, because I don't really think anybody wants to tell people things that are not true. Now, a reminder, this is an active investigation, and that means it's not done. There's a lot of work to do and a lot more to check. That means that I can't answer all the questions because not all the questions have been answered yet. It's intended to identify all the evidence and to collect all the evidence, information, facts, and details that we need to come to a final conclusion. All right? Deputies were dispatched to a call of an intrusion alarm, burglar alarm, at the Tout Brothers Concrete Company at 5384 Tennyson Street. It was identified as a west main entry door alarm. Now, two deputies responded. If you've been down there, you know that it's a large property, and I'm sure that you have all been down there. And you'll notice that there are quite a few buildings on the property. The deputies followed our alarm response protocol, and that is that they're to try and find out what set off the alarm. Is there an intruder? Is there a burglary in progress? What might be happening? They came to a particular business building, and probably here's where I'm going to leave the platform, because if I show you while I tell you, you'll have a little better understanding. Tennyson Street, northbound, straight up this way. And you'll notice that right here there's a small box that says 5384. There's a sign at that drive for 5384 Tennyson Street, and you go down this very long drive to this big warehouse building, and that is 5384. Except that this 5460 is also Tout Brothers Concrete. The deputies coming in park here. And right here on the face of this building, you can see the business logo and the name of Tout Brothers Concrete. West main entry door. This is the west side of the building. Now, the incident that we're talking about did not happen there, and it did not happen there. It happened in this building back here. And the west side door is right here. There's no number on that door, but there is a small, what they call a dymo label on it. The dymo labels, the ones that come out of the label makers, those tape label makers, that says advanced door. It's not a residence, it's part of the business. So the deputies went there and they found that door to be open, unlocked. And if you're looking for the other picture of that, it is right here. Security door, and this is a closer picture of it. Deputies do what they're supposed to do, and they decided to check it. Crack it open, and as they crack it open, they hear someone inside, and they also hear a dog. Someone from inside grabbed the door, and the deputy pulled it closed, not knowing what he had, not knowing if the person belonged in there or didn't belong in there. And they stepped back, thought they had the potential for an intruder or burglar, and they did draw weapons. The man opened the door, and it was the dog owner, Mr. Fisher. They were attempting to control him. He was not out of control. They were just attempting to give him instructions. And he was asked to control his dog. Unfortunately, the dog slipped out, and as we understand it, barking and growling, as we might expect. The one deputy retreated about 20 to 25 feet. As the dog was moving toward him, he kicked the dog. And as we are told, it didn't deter the dog. The dog continued to come, and the deputy fired 2 rounds, one of the rounds hitting the dog. Now, there's a lot of misinformation that we need to clear up if we can. There's this allegation of a forced entry by the law enforcement officers and that this incident occurred inside, and it's not true. The evidence clearly demonstrates that it occurred outside, and the dog was actually just at about 23 feet from the door. There is some additional misinformation that there were multiple rounds fired, and I've seen several reports, but I can assure you, as you've already heard, there were 2 that hit the dog. Now we come to the next issue, and the next issue is the address. If you look at this building, you'll see the numbers, 5384. That is this building, without question. The deputies were checking all of the buildings, but let's just tell it like it is. The building here, where the incident happened, is not 5384 Tennyson Street. It is not. And there's no way to tell that except exactly that. There have been some reports that the dog was a small dog, and I've seen all kinds of reports ranging from little dogs to medium-sized dogs. The dog is actually about a medium-large dog, about 55, 57 pounds in that particular range. There's a couple more pieces that I want to talk about for a second. There have been some comments made that the detectives were down there attempting to force Mr. Fisher to do some things. And the answer to that is it's just not true. When you're going to conduct an investigation, you have an obligation to get every account from everybody who was there who might know something. And so our detectives went back to the building to try to talk to Mr. Fisher to see if they could get his account of the story. He is understandably upset and did not initially want to talk to us. That has all changed, and I can tell you that he has talked to us and he has provided us an account of what happened down there, and it's a little different today than it was a couple of days ago. A reminder, the investigation is not complete. We still have work to do. I suppose you're probably going to want to ask some questions about that. Some we can answer, some we can't. But there's one thing I need you to know. We're going to wait until all the facts are in, all the evidence is in, all the information is in before we make any decisions. That's the right thing to do. We have to put a complete package together, and then we'll take a look at it, and we'll make our choices from there. Now, the other question is, what has happened with the deputy? I've reassigned him to another division. It does not seem reasonable to leave him on duty in the same division in the field under these circumstances, so I've moved him to another division. And with that, I'll be happy to answer some of your questions.
Sheriff, you said, quote, that these deputies followed alarm response protocol. In going through that, did they actually go to that address, 5384? I know it's fenced in and it's separate from where they pulled in. Did they go there, and is that following alarm response protocol?
Alarm response protocol is a protocol that says that you go to a location where you may have an alarm, and you're checking to find out if you have a forced entry, or burglary in progress, open doors, open windows, things of that sort. When they went and they pulled in the driveway here, they saw Tout Brothers here. They did not drive down along the drive to find that number on a door back in the warehouse. So the answer is they did not go back there.
Sir, that drive is marked, quite large, about the size of me, 5384, in red, to the address they were dispatched to, yet they did not go there.
I know that, and they did not go there.
Sheriff, you mentioned that you've reassigned that deputy to another division. Is he still out in the field?
He is not.
And have they given any indication as to the confusion about why they were going there?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Did they give any indication as to why they went to that specific building as opposed to going to 5384?
They thought they were going to Tout Brothers Concrete at the west main entry door to check for an intrusion alarm or to check on a burglar alarm, and they went to this building instead of going to this building. They went to the wrong building.
What about in terms of when deputies are in the field and they approach dogs? Is there a policy in this department for that? And if so, did that deputy follow that policy in this case?
There is not a specific policy when it comes to dealing with dogs. We don't have a written protocol for how we're going to take care of that business all of the time. We expect our deputies to act reasonably. We expect them to be concerned for their welfare and for any injuries that they might sustain. Of course we do that. And we expect them to use a reasonable amount of force for whatever risk they might face.
Sheriff, in your mind, what would justify shooting a dog twice? What kind of behavior from that dog would justify that?
That, frankly, is going to depend upon the perspective of the deputy who is there. I can't speak for anyone else, but when you're talking about deadly force, the issue is normally serious bodily injury or risk of death.
Was there anything to indicate when the alarm was sounded that this might be a life-threatening or potentially dangerous situation for the deputies to be in?
Yeah, I would call it a normal alarm call. I wouldn't call it anything different than that.
What about Mr. Fisher saying that the deputy said you can get a new dog? Can you comment on that particular his statement about that?
I can. What would you like me to answer? What part of that?
Just was that true that the deputy said that, and your response to the deputy saying to the person that lost his dog, you can get a new dog?
Well, originally, we didn't know if it was true or not. But after some of the investigation has been completed, we've discovered that a deputy admits that he made a comment like that. And that will become part of our internal affairs investigation that follows the general investigation that we're involved in right now.
Was there any evidence of an actual burglary on the property or any break-in or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did they ever go to 5384?
I don't believe they did. I'm sorry, sir, this is for the news media.
In talking about what happened there, we've heard from the owner, Fisher, saying that his dog was running away from the deputy and back to him. Your account is different. Have you guys determined which?
Well, I don't have an account. I'm telling you what we know so far. And you've seen that I've not addressed that issue yet. And the reason is because that piece is part of the continuing investigation. There is more work to be done. I wouldn't be able to make a comment about that yet because I don't know the answer yet.
And is this investigation being conducted internally within the Sheriff's Office or by the Adams County Critical Incident Team?
This is not an incident that the Adams County Critical Incident Team would handle. It is being handled by the Detective Division Commander, his lieutenant, and the two supervisors, as well as members of our crime lab. They are responsible for the general investigation, and they are providing us information along the way as it develops and as those questions get answered.
Sheriff, you referred to the community response to this as, quote, a firestorm.
Mm-hmm.
In looking at the department and training and whatnot, what can be done to ensure you don't get to this point again?
Well, I can tell you that this is a rare occurrence in the Adams County Sheriff's Office, and it's those rare occurrences that normally get your attention and tell you that you need to get something else on your radar screen. And so we'll be working with our training unit to determine what steps we take next. This is not something we want to go through a second time.
Sheriff, I have another question for you, not relating to this, but why is your office unwilling to release the name of the man who was shot by a deputy on Monday?
I'll tell you what, I'll answer your question after we leave here. That's not part of this press conference.
Sounds good.
Anyone else?
Any timeline on when you're referring to this as an ongoing investigation, any timeline as to when it could be complete?
We would like for it to be complete now, but the fact of the matter is that we have some other professionals we're going to have to work with in the coming days, and it's going to be dependent upon their schedule, when they can accommodate us, and when some of the forensic work can be completed. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
And in a case like this, if wrongdoing, is found, right, would discipline be on the table? Removal from the force, possibly?
Well, there are two different types of investigations. One is a general investigation, and one is an internal affairs investigation. General investigations deal with potential criminal matters, and internal affairs investigations deal with violations of rules of conduct. Both will be conducted as they always are. We'll take a look at the results from both, and then the appropriate action will be taken, whatever it might be. We don't ignore issues within this agency. We don't ignore issues that cause alarm for the general public, and we surely don't ignore violations of rules of conduct. Now, that's not to say that I've decided that there are any of those. We're going to wait until all the evidence is in, and then we'll decide.
Does that deputy have a history of any disciplinary action with the Adams County Sheriff's Department?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know of any disciplinary action.
You mentioned that the owner has since started talking to you guys, and his account is now different from the initial reports he gave earlier. What has changed about that?
No, I didn't say that his account was different. What I said is that he's now talking to us, because initially he did not want to talk to us when we went down to have a discussion with him. On the day that the detectives went down to see him to get his account of the story, he asked us to leave. And that has now changed, and we've now had the opportunity to talk to him.
If there's no more questions, again, the packets are back here, and I will be available to go through pictures with you guys. Is there any last question for the sheriff?
Okay. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you.
If there's any questions we can answer, let us know.
Thank you.
You bet.